Rosa, are you okay? You don't look alright. Nah, it's fine. People are free to subscribe to my YouTube channel whenever they feel like it. There's no pressure from me to them on whether or not they should. Absolutely none. Zero. Ever since she was released, Rosa's been on the more underwhelming side of 6-star snipers. Not to say that she's bad, but when you're put next to Schwartz and W and you don't really have the big damage number skill, it makes you feel a tad inadequate. It's like she's come home from a long day of school, and I can see the sad expression on her face, but she immediately goes to her room and, you know, I don't want to bother her too soon, so I give her a couple minutes to be alone and let everything out. Then, after I hear the crying calm down a bit, I gently knock on the door and open it, noticing the used tissues on her bedside and that her eye is red, and I ask if everything is alright, and she sniffles and asks me if she's good enough, and like the reaffirming parent I am, I tell her that greatness can take a while to develop, and just because some people are prodigies before you doesn't take away from the fact that you can't be great as them. For example, Van Gogh didn't start painting until he was 27. I didn't do too well in middle or high school, but now I'm a gacha content creator, and then I show her my YouTube channel. Anyways, back to Rosa. She's a bit underwhelming. She's a procedure sniper, meaning she targets the heaviest enemies in her range. Branch's range might look weird, but it can reach a lot of places other operators can't, so I actually like it. She has a row in front of her where she can't hit enemies, however, trading that row for an expanded range is definitely worth it. Rosa's first talent gives her a very huge 60% defense ignore when attacking enemies with 3 or more weight. This is actually really good because bosses and threatening enemies tend to have lots of defense, so being able to bypass all of that can ensure she gets her damage in. Her second talent is just some generic attack up for all Ursus child soldiers in the squad. It's not really important. Rosa's third skill increases her attack slightly and harpoons up to 4 enemies in her range, targeting the guys with the highest weight. It binds them and deals damage per second for 8 seconds. The skill only deals 13,000 total raw damage, which sounds really underwhelming for its 30 SP charge, but then you remember she has her first talent that lets her ignore 60% defense on guys with above average bone density, and this means Rosa can be a menace to big men society. Elite enemies that are non-bosses only have at max like, what, 16k HP, so Rosa gets a decent chunk in. Basically, abuse bind in range and don't expect her to wipe all the enemies from across the map. Her module increases her attack against large specimen, and the talent upgrades let her deal additional physical damage when attacking them too. Wow, is that an extra 60% of physical damage with mod 3? On top of an already 150% with the trait change? Huh. Well, I'm sure all of you are bored of me just throwing numbers at you, so let's do some testing. Here is Rosa with no mod against the 616 shield guards versus mod at To simplify this entire module, because of how the numbers work out, Rosa does twice the damage against heavy enemies on all her attacks. And if there's anything I learned from parenting, it's that twice the damage is twice the fun. For me at least. Her skill 3 now just one cycles elites like Imperial Strikers from Chapter 8 or Dockworker Boats from Chen's Mistake, and if the harpoon doesn't completely donut the victim like a JoJo villain, then Rosa still offers the bind to stall, letting her opponents get hit by other operators. The only downside is to non-heavy enemies, she doesn't gain much from the module except some slight extra damage, but the only targets that matter anyways are the elites, so like who cares. I didn't expect HG to go this hard on Rosa's module because of the previous examples. Yeah. And I honestly don't think she needed a buff that goes from 0 to 100 real quick, but it's nice to see the glow up of what was once a mediocre operator. Okay, Ceobe, I'm gonna leave these knives here. Don't try eating them because you might end up hurting yourself instead, okay? I'm gonna go to my office to get some papers. I'll be right back. Don't touch anything. Funny little Ceobe has been in a similar spot to Rosa. She's mediocre, and if you're a real one, you might remember the Caster Branch introduction video a very tired me made a year ago talking about how she's made for a high single target total damage. The truth is, I only said that to make Ceobe feel better about herself. High single target total damage doesn't really come up too often in general content, or at least not as often when you put her against Aya with her 15-second burst skill that incinerates everything in her range. It's 2023, and we have a 42-second cooldown Golden Ash sweep that deals 4k damage per hit, while the newly released casters are still getting L+ ratioed by a goat who can't even tell how many fingers I'm holding up. But surely, with her shiny new baguette, Ceobe becomes even better at her job. The talent the mod focuses on is her first, which lets Ceobe deal an additional arts damage as 40% of the target's defense. This talent allows Ceobe to essentially scale with bosses or elite enemies that have a high amount of defense, like the Jungle Gundam from the older Gavial event and the Hammer Knight from Maria's Totally Not Rigged tournament. Her second talent's lame, just like Rosa's. It gives her 8% more attack and 8 attack speed when there are no allies in the forges and tiles, which sounds negligible enough, but it can be the source for an extra couple thousand damage for her total damage, so it's not completely useless, especially when you're trying to squeeze everything out of Kubu like the squish ball she is. Kirby's second skill heavily reduces her attack interval and prioritizes the enemy with the highest defense. A very simple skill description for our lovable brainlet. Her solution to every enemy is throw more knives at it, and if that doesn't kill them, then throw even more knives. The skill doesn't have any attack modifiers, which actually doesn't matter because of how the arts damage formula works, so our little Quomblo here isn't being penalized by anything. In fact, it's better that her attack interval gets faster because she's able to make more use of the first talent, which lets her get more additional arts damage in relative to the enemy's defense. Ceobe's mod gives her the innate ability to ignore 10 arts resistance. Enemies are getting to the point where 40 arts resistance is normal, which is nasty, I know. That also means Resignor is expected in every new arts operator, and without it, your damage is getting sent to the 9th dimension. At mod 3, the talent deals 50% of the enemy's defense as additional arts damage, and this goes up to 75% in 5% increments if she's attacking the same enemy. Essentially, Fungly Crombe doesn't fall off like a variety gacha content creator. The mod lets her handle medium arts resistance elites and bosses. The 75% defense to arts damage is especially great, almost doubling the damage on that talent. If you didn't know already, that first talent does serious work, and I emphasized this in the Ceobe vs Aya comparison I did a year ago, but now the mod almost doubles that damage. On high defense 0-res enemies, Crombers with mod increases her DPS by nearly a third, which fine. It's not twice the damage like Rosa's, but that's still really good. Even if the enemy had arts resistance, the increase in DPS would be even higher because now she has that Resignor from the trait change. All of this is good news for Ceobe, but her niche is still the same, which is high single target total arts damage. This mod didn't exactly give her anything new, but making her do more damage still increases her versatility, and this is exactly what our little doggo needed to stay afloat. Ceobe, where are the knives? No, Ceobe, you didn't need all the knives. That would have damaged the inside of your mouth, throat, esophagus, and whatever digestive tract you had left. Wait, isn't your Fumo magnetic?